How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Infinite Sports. I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, to recap Championship Sunday and give you a brief preview into Super Bowl 60. Two good games. Well, really one good game. The other game dealt with a lot of weather conditions and was pretty low scoring. So it was a defensive battle. If you're a fan of good defenses and weather conditions, that was your type of game. So we'll go through both games. Patriots and Seahawks both advanced to Super Bowl 60, and this will be a rematch of Super Bowl 49, which was one of the greatest Super Bowls of all time, and of course ended in a dramatic way that many people still talk about to this day. So let's get into what transpired on Sunday. We'll start off with the first game, the AFC Championship game between the Broncos and the Patriots. Now, for a lot of people, including myself, Patriots, this was a game that, with what happened with Denver, their quarterback being out, you sided with the Patriots. You kind of figured the Patriots were going to win this game. But to give Denver a lot of credit, defense really played well in this game and held Drake Maye to under 86 under 100 passing yards. He finished, I think, with 86 passing yards, but didn't turn the ball over. Played a clean game. It really came down to turnovers in this game. The biggest turnover was the turnover in Denver's territory. Jarrett Stidham, getting sacked, tried to get rid of the ball, ended up throwing a backward pass. The Patriots ended up recovering the fumble, and then Drake Maye ended up scoring a designed run touchdown in the end zone to tie the game. And then the Patriots did get a field goal later. Final score ended up being 10-7. Very low scoring game. And a lot of that had to do with, later on, there were bad weather conditions. Snow played a factor. Both kickers had trouble with field goals in this game. Will Lutz had a field goal that was blocked, which made a difference. But early on in the game, right away, Broncos get the ball, and they go 3 and out, only gained 1 yard on their first possession. And then Drake Maye almost threw a pick six. He threw a pass into a lot of traffic. Could have got picked off and returned for a touchdown, and that would have really made a difference in the game. But luckily, that did not happen. And then Broncos get the ball back. Marvin Mims ends up dropping a pass, and it looked like he was going to gain a lot of yards on the play, wide receiver screen play. And then the next play, Stidham loads up, throws it right back to him, 54-yard pass play, and then that sets up a touchdown pass later in the drive. So the Broncos are up 7-0, and you're thinking, all right, you know what? Denver is going to be in this game. And then that was really it from Denver offensively. They had trouble running the football. They just couldn't get anything going, drop passes. Stidham threw a pick later in the game to ice it pretty much. And then Drake Maye, of course, called his own play, ended up rolling out and catching the defense off guard and picking up the first down, which effectively ended the game and sending the Patriots back to the Super Bowl. But look, Drake Maye did what he was supposed to do. The Patriots had trouble moving the football. They tried to establish the run in the second half, and then they were finding some success with it. But it really just came down to, hey, our defense is playing great. It's a backup quarterback. Just don't make any mistakes. And the Patriots didn't make any mistakes. And that ultimately was the difference in the game. One of the other bigger plays in this game was the Broncos were moving the football. They were moving the football down the field. It was 4th and 1. They decided to go for it rather than taking the points and going up 10-0. They end up not converting on that. I think in that situation, and we'll talk about Sean McVay and his decision-making in the second half in the NFC Championship game. But I think I know it's very easy to say, oh, take the points or go for it because, we're all sitting on our couch watching the game. But that was a situation there where you got to take the points because you have a backup quarterback. With Bo Nix playing, if that was the case, all right, you're being aggressive there. You're being aggressive regardless. But with the backup quarterback, your defense is playing really well. Just take the points. And that could have been the difference in the game. Could have been. That and obviously the turnover, which that just can't happen. You can't do that in that situation. Take the sack, and obviously Stidham said that afterwards, that's what he should have did. And that could have made the difference in the game too. So the game was there for the Broncos to win, but they just made more mistakes. Patriots didn't. And that's why the Patriots are heading back to the Super Bowl. And what a turnaround for the Patriots. They had a long drought, right? They hadn't been back to the Super Bowl now. This is going to be the first time they're back there since the 2018-2019 season when they played the Rams and won that game 13-3. But they got the quarterback. They got the head coach. Their defense looked really good this season. They've had quite the turnaround. And could this be the beginning of their next dynasty? Well, we'll have to see. It all starts 2 weeks from now in Santa Clara when they take on the Seahawks, and that was the team that they beat to begin the second dynasty. So could this be the time where they start the third dynasty? Again, remains to be seen. But you got to give them credit for this kind of a turnaround in such a short amount of time, because a couple of years ago, they were really bad. They were really bad. But like I said, they got the quarterback, and he still hasn't played great in the playoffs, but he's done what he's supposed to do, and he's got an opportunity to win a Super Bowl in his second season now. So credit to the Patriots, man. It's tough for Denver. You really wonder what would have happened if Bo Nix would have played. I think if Bo Nix plays, I think the Broncos are the team that's in the Super Bowl. I think that most people would agree with that. But it's just tough luck. Broncos had a great season. With the number 1 seed. Sean Payton, give him a lot of credit because he really turned this team around in a few years as well. So they're going to be a good team for a while as long as he's the coach. And they got their quarterback. They got a lot of young weapons on their team. I'm curious, what would have happened if Dobbins would have played? Would they have had more success running the football? But again, he's just coming back, not going to be 100%. But yeah, Denver needed more of a running game, more out of their running game in this contest. And once again, it just didn't happen. It didn't happen. It's not like both teams ran the football great. Drake Maye, made plays with his legs, and he's done that throughout the postseason here. And it made the difference in this game with the touchdown, and then, of course, the final play to really ice this AFC Championship game. But the other thing I wanted to talk about was this outcry over the weather conditions and how, these games need to be played in a neutral field. That really determined the outcome of this game. I don't know where this all came from. It's easier to say it because it happened in this game, but when have weather conditions, in a championship game, we'll say, because obviously you could bring up the tuck rule happening in the snow, also involving the Patriots, but it's easy to say that because it just happened, and yeah, look, it affected, the kicking situations, but this is what football is played in, and how often is it that you're going to get a snowstorm like that rolling in during an AFC Championship game or just a championship game in general? It doesn't usually happen. Usually the weather conditions are fine. Like we've had rain in the past, but this is what football is played in. And yeah, we're moving towards, people are going to get their wishes eventually because a lot of these stadiums, like, the Chiefs are going to have a new stadium, the Bills are going to have a new stadium. Like, there's so many teams that are going to be getting new stadiums that, yeah, you're going to have these retractable roofs. You're going to have these domes. So weather is not going to be a factor in a lot of these stadiums. So you will get your wish. But the reason why these are, teams play for home field advantage in the playoffs. Okay? And if you have championship games being played on a neutral field, you are minimizing the importance of home field advantage. That's the whole point. You want to have these playoff games in your stadium. Look at Seattle. Seattle has played really well at home in the playoffs in recent years. That's why teams, play for home field advantage. They want that. It's important, and you're just going to get rid of that and you're going to minimize that. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. I don't. And again, weather conditions that we saw on Sunday, it does not happen often. Doesn't. Really does not. I mean, look at, like, you go over the last, several years. I mean, we've had championship games in Santa Clara. We've had championship games at SoFi. Like, the weather doesn't really play a factor in these venues. This was just a unique situation. So, yeah, I didn't understand that. I thought that was ridiculous. But that's what a lot of people are saying, that we got to have championship games in neutral stadiums. No. Super Bowl is one thing. Championship games are another thing. And if that's the case, then you should just have every playoff round, they all be played in neutral stadiums then. Or you have the wild card round with everybody playing in their home stadiums, and then the divisional round is neutral sites, and then the championship games are neutral sites, and then the Super Bowl is a neutral site. But again, I'm not advocating for it. I think the Super Bowl being a neutral site, that's the only neutral site that should have a playoff game in the NFL playoffs. Last year you had a situation with the forest fires, and that's why you had the Rams and the Vikings playing in Glendale, Arizona. But again, that was a unique situation. Otherwise, that game's being played in SoFi. And the Rams definitely would have wanted to play the championship game this past Sunday in SoFi, which they had an opportunity to do that. And they lost some games towards the end of the season that prevented them from that game being played there. But yeah, no. Super Bowl is the only neutral site that a game should be played in. But like I said, people will get their wish eventually, because these stadiums are all going to be changed. They're going to be retractable roofs. There's going to be domes, and then that's it. So you'll get your wish there. But look, either way, how many of us thought that the Broncos were going to win this game with the backup quarterback? I mean, there definitely was some. But the Patriots, this was a game with the circumstances they were going to win this game regardless. Now, look, if a few plays go differently, then we'd be singing a different tune. But they did just enough to win this game. And credit to their defense. Like I said, defense plays in whatever weather. And they're heading back to the Super Bowl. And I'll talk about, after we recap the second game here, why they're kind of being disrespected already. And we literally just wrapped up Championship Sunday. But yeah, let's talk about the second game now. So the Rams and the Seahawks, grudge match. Third matchup between these two teams this year. And this was an exciting game. Look, the first game was competitive, but, you wanted more out of this. With Bo Nix being out, that took away the juice. This game had all the juice from start to finish. What a great finish to this game. From start to finish, this was an awesome game. Very good championship game between these two teams. A very good quarterback duel between these two teams. And it was Seattle that won the grudge match, and they will be advancing to the Super Bowl for the first time since Super Bowl 49, when they lost to the Patriots. But right away, I mean, Sam Darnold, from start to finish, was flawless. I mean, we talked about it on Friday. The 7 picks was kind of a turnover machine in the first two matchups. But I would say, from the time that the Seahawks mounted the comeback against the Rams in the second matchup to this game, Sam Darnold has played his best football. And this was the best game that Sam Darnold has played in his career, by far. And I don't think many people would disagree with that. We're pretty much all in lockstep there. He was great. And the Seahawks were aggressive in this game. When they were trying to ice the game, they were still throwing it late, which, you risk turning the ball over there, but they made key third downs when they had to. I mean, every time that the Rams needed to get a stop, there were times that they did get stops, but then they ended up hurting themselves in other ways, and we'll get into that. But the Seahawks, every time they needed a big third down, they got it. I mean, and Darnold was throwing the ball deep down the field, was throwing no-look passes. Smith and Jigba had a one-handed catch on a Darnold no-look pass. But right away, I mean, the Rams go 3 and out. Seahawks get the ball, and they score a touchdown immediately. I mean, they hit Rashid Shaheed for a big gain for 50 yards on third down, and then Kenneth Walker scores the rushing touchdown late in the drive. Rams missed a lot of tackles in this game. It was tough to get Walker down. I mean, he gave them problems the last time they played against each other. In this game, it was the same deal. I mean, he's so elusive. The Rams just couldn't tackle him. But yeah, Darnold, he played really well. And, late in the first half, towards the end there, he hit Smith and Jigba down the middle of the field, wide open. And then later on that same drive, hits him for the touchdown in the corner of the end zone. I mean, really, similar to what happened in the Broncos-Bills game, Seahawks got 14 points. 7 right before the end of the first half, and pretty much out of the second half to start off, because they go, Rams get a key stop, and then the Rams end up fumbling the punt, and then immediately the Seahawks cash in and they go up 24-13. And that was the difference in the game, really, because the Rams were up 13-10 before that drive to end the first half, pretty much. But then the Seahawks, they score 14 points, and one of them was because of a Rams turnover. And special teams has been a problem for the Rams all year, and that was the difference in the game. Both quarterbacks, no turnovers. They both played really well in this game. And the Rams kind of lucked out at one point because you had the taunting penalty that led to a touchdown to Puka Nacua right after that. Which was just a silly penalty on the Seahawks' part. Like, you cannot let that happen in this game, but that's what happened. That ended up being on Woolen. He was taunting the Rams sidelines, and he almost picked the ball off too. Like, if that would have happened and they would have got the taunting penalty, well, then it's just Seattle has the ball, but they're backed up. But because that was a turnover, then Rams got an automatic first down, and then next thing you know, Stafford's throwing a touchdown pass to Puka Nacua. Which he once again played an unbelievable game himself. Another big game against the Seahawks. Devontae Adams had a good game as well. On the touchdown drive before that, he had a big catch, and then, of course, is an automatic touchdown, in the red zone for the most part. But yeah, look, the Rams, they come up a little bit short. Their second to last drive of the game, they picked up a big 4th down, 4th and 1. I don't know how Stafford picked it up. I think DeMarcus Lawrence was trying to bring him down. I think that's who had him. And Stafford was able to get away from it and pick up the first down. I thought there, I was like, I think the Rams might get this here. And then they try to run it with Kyren Williams on 2nd and 4. He doesn't gain any yards. And then they throw 2 passes to the end zone, and the Seahawks, they make key stops defensively there. And the Seahawks, they ended up giving the ball back to the Rams, but with not a lot of time left. And Stafford threw a nice pass to Puka Nacua, and I thought he was out of bounds, but he was tackled inbounds, and they had no timeouts left, and the clock ran out, and the Seahawks advanced to the championship, or advanced to the Super Bowl. But I give a lot of credit to Sam Darnold. I mean, like I said, this was the best game that he's ever played as a pro. What a journey that he's been on. And I said that was going to be the difference in the game, is him not turning the ball over. And he did not turn the ball over. Played a very good game. That Rams secondary had a lot of problems in these playoffs, and that continued in this game. They could not cover Smith and Jigba. Cooper Kupp had a touchdown in this game. Another touchdown to Bobo as well. They couldn't tackle Kenneth Walker, like I said. The secondary was vulnerable, and the Seahawks picked them apart. And it came down to, they got a key stop. They got the sack of Darnold, and they were getting the ball back, and then Xavier Smith ends up fumbling. And the Seahawks immediately cashed in. If that doesn't happen there, maybe the game goes differently. I mean, the Rams still had an opportunity late. They didn't go to Puka Nacua or Devontae Adams on that 4th and 4, which I think at that point you just try to find one of those two guys and just hope that they can make a play. But that didn't happen. I mean, look, Stafford played an unbelievable game in this loss. He was sharp all game long, was getting great protection from his offensive line. Just the bottom line is this, turnover made a difference in the game. Defense did not play well. Defense did not play well. And that's something they're going to have to address in the offseason, is improving the back end of that defense. They were dealing with some injuries back there, but they need to improve it because they have a good front. But if those guys don't get home, we saw it all throughout these playoffs, that secondary is vulnerable and got picked apart. I mean, go back to the Panthers game. Bryce Young played a really good game against them. Caleb Williams, there were plays to be made that weren't made. Like there was a touchdown pass that was dropped early in that game. And then look at what happened on that fourth down play as well. Like what was happening there in the Rams secondary? It's just it was a problem, and it was a problem that was going to continue to be a problem even if they got to the Super Bowl. But I still said, with Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford, their experience and a familiar opponent, can they get this done? They've come up a little bit short. And like I said with Sean Payton and the decision not to go and take the points on that fourth down, there were a couple of times, on those touchdown drives where I was thinking, like, are the Rams going to go for two? They didn't opt to go for two, because then, what ends up happening, if you know how to do math, if they get to two, then you're kicking a field goal to tie the game there. But if they didn't do that. I guess because it was earlier in the game that you figured, I'm just going to go for the extra point. Okay, I mean, I'm not going to kill McVay for it, but it is something to think about, why, even on like the second touchdown, the one to Puka, why you didn't go for two to make it a 3-point game. But look, it came down to one, like I said, Rams defense not being able to get stops, and that special teams muffed punt, that hurt them. That made the difference in the game. And the Seahawks, they made the Rams pay. I mean, Sam Darnold has played some flawless football in these two playoff games. I mean, and the thing about Sam Darnold is he was asked to do more in this game. Like, he had to match Matthew Stafford. Last week against the 49ers, you were basically on cruise control the whole time. You had control of that game from start to finish. Here, you really had to bring your A game, and that's exactly what he did. Matched everything that Matthew Stafford did and more. And outplayed Matthew Stafford. Outplayed him. If you want to say that too. And Smith and Jigba, the Rams defense just had no answers for him. None. And he had a very good year this year. And the Patriots defense is going to have their hands full in the Super Bowl coming up. And then obviously Cooper Kupp, got himself involved. He caught a crucial third down catch to pick up a first down that had to be reviewed. I think he picked it up. There was a little bit of a argument on whether or not he got it, but he picked it up. He picked it up, got the first down. And it was interesting. I saw the articles that came out about how the Rams were like urging him to retire, and they basically like were giving up on him. And he wanted to continue to play. They cut him, and there was more stories about when they played the last time in Seattle, coaches got into it, on both teams because he fumbled, and the Rams coaching staff supposedly was like, oh yeah, that's not that, like it wasn't a surprise that happened. Yeah, they really, and they kind of phased Cooper Kupp out last year, with obviously the emergence of Puka Nacua, but yeah, he kind of at times was just non-existent. But yeah, look, Cooper Kupp is not the one from 2021. Yeah, he's not the Triple Crown winner, but he could still play and he could still make big catches. He proved that. He proved that this year. He proved that in the two games against the Rams in Seattle. I mean, what about the one that he caught along the sidelines in the last game they played against each other in the regular season? Like, he could still make big plays for you. Now, obviously, he's in an offense now where, they like to run the football, and you have a number one wide receiver now in Jackson Smith and Jigba, who's not the main guy. But in crucial situations, he can make big plays, and they're going to need him in the Super Bowl. They're going to need him in the Super Bowl. He's going to make plays in the Super Bowl. You can guarantee it. Now, he's not going to be the MVP of the Super Bowl, but that, at times where there could be a crucial situation, that Cooper Kupp might have to come up big, and I think he could do that. But yeah, I didn't like I don't like that the coaching staff and he kind of just got disrespected because you know what, he's still got some left in the tank. Again, he's an older player now, dealt with a lot of injuries, but he could still play. And now he's the one that gets the last laugh. He's playing in the Super Bowl and he sent his former team home. But yeah, no, he that was definitely big for him. But I thought that was something interesting that was made light of this week. Is more on Cooper Kupp's exit from LA. I mean, it's nothing really to do with Stafford or McVay, but it kind of just like other individuals and upper management. And look, it would have been a lot for them to keep Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and Devontae Adams all on the same team. Although I think that would be insane to have all three of those guys as your pass catchers. Having Cooper Kupp line up in the slot, and then have those two on the outside. But again, you gotta get rid of somebody, and that's what they had to do to bring in Devontae Adams, who had a great first year with the Rams. But also, speaking of Matthew Stafford, before it was made, I thought it was made clear that he's going to come back next year. So reporters were asking McVay if he's going to come back, and McVay, I guess, got a little irritated by it. But pretty sure he's coming back. He should come back. I mean, he's going to win the MVP this year. Played really well in this game despite the loss. He could definitely play for as long as he wants. And he's still got a great arm. Again, some of the passes he was making, I mean, he could still sling it. But it could have been their last chance. Could have been their last chance. And same thing for Devontae Adams, who now is 0-5 in conference championship games, was very emotional after the game. Because he's getting up there. I think he's 34 now. How long is he going to be able to play? I mean, he played at a high level this year. I think he's in a perfect situation with the Rams. Was a touchdown machine this year. It's just how many chances you're going to get, and this could have been his last chance too. So the Rams end up going home, and like I said, it's going to be a rematch of Super Bowl 49. The Patriots, I feel like, are getting disrespected very early because, yes, you look at these two teams, and Seattle is the better team. I would agree with that. And I'd lean towards Seattle. But don't completely dismiss the Patriots, okay? Because I think with their defense and Drake Maye playing turnover-free football, they can hang with the Seahawks. If they can make Sam Darnold's life difficult, which is something I've said, constantly, I've said it, I said it in this game against the Rams. They got a shot. But the Patriots, yeah, you talk about the path that they had to get here. Look, they're here for a reason. All right, and I do think that, you got 2 weeks to prepare for this game. Patriots' offensive line is going to have to hold up because they struggled. They really struggled against the Broncos. And going up against this Seattle front, which can also get after you, and then you got to deal with the guys in the secondary. Yeah, it's, you're going to have your hands full. But I think the Patriots have the defense where they could keep them in the game. But only time will tell. It's going to be an interesting game. If the Seahawks win, I mean, that would be quite the story for Sam Darnold and this team. Again, I didn't even mention Mike McDonald and what he's done in his short time with the Seahawks as the new head coach. Give him a lot of credit. Two teams that I didn't have making the playoffs are in the Super Bowl, so that's nice. But yeah, no, I think this is going to be a good game. I think it really is going to come down to the trenches. Like if the Patriots do a better job at protecting Drake Maye, it's going to be more of a contest. If it ends up being like what we saw with Mahomes against the Eagles last year, and Mahomes against the Bucks, it's gonna be a long game for the Pats. But if they can give Drake Maye good protection, they got a chance. They got a chance. But they got a chance because of their defense too. I think their defense, if they could force some turnovers, we'll see. But yeah, interesting matchup. Also, I saw this could be like the worst quarterback matchup in the Super Bowl, one of the worst quarterback matchups. No, I mean, look, Sam Darnold had a great year. Drake Maye had a great year. Drake Maye's going to be the runner-up for MVP, so I disagree with that. I don't know why that's the case in some people's eyes. It's just because it's not a marquee matchup. Like, you're not getting like a Brady versus like a Breeze, or you're not getting that. It's a young quarterback in his second year, and a journeyman who's now looks like he's found his home in Seattle. So and again, both these guys had great years. One of them, Patriots were the second seed, Seahawks were the number one seed in the NFC. So, and part of the reason is because of how the quarterbacks played. But yeah, Super Bowl 60 between the Patriots and the Seahawks. It is 2 weeks from now, a little over 2 weeks from now. Actually, no, I shouldn't say that. Under 2 weeks, and then that'll be it. So we will preview that when we get close to it. But for now, we got the Pro Bowl coming up this week. I know someone commented the Pro Bowl stopped after 2022. Well, yeah, like the traditional Pro Bowl, but the Pro Bowl like festivities still go on, and they got the flag football games and the skills challenges and all that. So that's what I meant by that. Yeah, no, I mean, if it was up to me, I would do away with with the Pro Bowl entirely. But you got to have something in between the championship games and the Super Bowl. But yeah, so I hope everybody enjoyed the games. We got one final game a week and a half from now, and then that'll be it. So as always, everybody, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the video, to the channel. Make sure to follow us on the social media platforms in the description below. And wherever you get your podcasts, you can listen to us as well. Just look up Infinite Sports and you'll find us there. And as always, I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, signing off. Have a good one, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Take care.